Good evening and thank you for joining us for this week's last edition of Primetime News. I'm Joy Gosses. We begin the bulletin with news that's been making headlines over the past few weeks. After 7 years of not receiving any salary increment, civil servants now have received a tangible reprieve after government and union representatives agreed to a 3% increment, effective the 1st of April 2022. Linnea Deshena compiled our first report.
We consulted widely. We know the level of inflation, but we are also mindful of the limited resources. Of course, the liquidity from government, we are mindful of it. We are all Namibians. And we then consider to do whatever is possible, because our mandate as workers' leaders is to do the best we can for the benefit of our members, civil servants. We have agreed that we give a basic salary of civil servants across the board of 3%. Another item is to give and is to increase the housing allowance for civil servants below management by 11%. The third last is to increase the transport allowance for civil servants by 14%. The total combined cost of these three items increased at percentages I have mentioned. It amounts to 924 million.
Meanwhile, the Public Service Union of Namibia has expressed dismay over NAPU and NANTU's public servant salary agreement with government, saying they negotiated in bad faith and failed to represent the workers.
This is all because that these two unions took the workers to ballot, that, as you know, to decide whether or not to strike. And the workers voted in favor of the strike. And that is the mandate they have given to the unions, that they are going on strike. Ironically, and without obtaining fresh mandates from the workers that they represent, not their members, workers that they represent in the bargaining unit within the public service. These two unions went behind the backs of these workers and sealed an agreement on behalf of them, which is highly unacceptable. It is in fact deceitful, for the lack of better word, mischievous insofar as it is construed to have had deceived not only the workers and the members they represent, but the entire public service and the public in general. The voting or the balloting was based on a particular proposal, not the one they accepted behind closed doors. And maybe someone needs to make it clear that NAPU and NANTU don't have any single power or right to make decisions on behalf of the civil servants, which they know or ought to know very well that such move will affect them adversely. To add insult to injury, they accepted a deal which is way out below the inflation. And this is a non-starter and it deserves to be rejected at all costs.
The second National Education Conference, which commenced on Tuesday, concluded today with a host of resolutions adopted. Let's have a brief listen into some of this.
A comprehensive report on outcomes of the 2022 National Conference on Education, including the State of Education snapshot consisting of regional profiles, will be shared and deliberated at cabinet level for further guidance on the implementation. Secondly, the recommendations of the National Conference on Education will then inform the priority areas contributing towards strategic themes and objectives in the ministry's next strategic plan for 2023 to 2028, to be based on the National Development Plan 6. Based on the presentation from my Executive Director, Madam Steenkamp, let me now zoom into our transformative priority areas that will require actions at all levels: ministerial, executive, regional, and school levels, as well as with the engagement of the public sector through partnerships and the UN and development partners. Once again, these priorities will constitute the core of the Namibia's position paper that our head of state will deliver at the Transforming Education Summit come September in New York. And the priority areas, as the ED has said already, are as follows: innovative financing and domestic resource mobilization, improving office efficiencies, transformation of teacher training, and early grade literacy and numeracy, with a strong focus on foundational literacy.
Minister of Information and Communication Technology, Phea Moshilenga, says the 5th National Development Plan has identified a number of issues hampering progress in Namibia's ICT sector. Shalva Wells filed this report.
Limited internet access at public facilities in rural areas, but even in urban areas. In some places, in a few cities in African countries and in most of the European countries, when you walk into a mall, you have free access to the internet. At the airports, you have free access to internet. Here, you go to our airport, no free access to the internet. You go into the mall, no free access. So that is in the urban area. Whereas now, in the rural area, there is nothing. In those areas, there is no public access to the internet, because even the towers sometimes do not really easily reach those rural areas. Also, insufficient electricity in the rural area. Not all places are connected to the national grid. You have areas that are still not connected to the national grid and do not even have the solar power system in place. So these are the challenges that have been identified. And low capacity and expensive telecommunications network. Those that have access to the internet, sometimes it is very slow, and actually it's also unaffordable to buy this data. Time and again becomes unaffordable, and so forth.
When we return, Okagarara Annual Trade Fair receives shot in the arm. Welcome to the Primetime Buzz segment, where business and economics take center stage. And leading the segment, more than 500,000 Namibian dollars in cash and pledges was raised at a gala dinner held Thursday to raise funds for the Okakarara Annual Trade Fair. Mulisa Simiasa was at the event and filed the story.
The trade fair, which was suspended for the past 2 years due to the COVID-19 outbreak, will take place from 5 to 10 September 2022 at the Okakarara Trade Fair Center. The chairperson of the Okakarara Town Council's Management Committee, Golden Kachatako, in an interview with Nampa earlier today, confirmed the amount and said it was also announced during the event that Standard Bank Namibia is the main sponsor of the trade fair along with MTC. Kachatako said the money they generated will largely be used for planning and logistics purposes, as well as to pay for private security services, as well as market the trade fair. Kachatako further noted that the trade fair is a platform where companies, ministries, farmers as well as SMEs can interact with various local and international clients. About 400 exhibitors are expected.
On to the next story. Deputy Executive Director in the Ministry of Higher Education, Technology and Innovation, Raymond Nanda, says technical and vocational education training has gained worldwide recognition for reducing youth unemployment and stimulating national economic growth. Shalva Wells filed this insert.
And therefore, as a country, we've decided also to review our policy because worldwide, TVET is recognized as one of the game changers to address youth, high unemployment, as well as poverty alleviation. Our TVET policy addresses 5 key critical priorities. The first one is to improve governance and management within the sector. We have duplicating functions within some of our entities. We need to address that. We are talking about enhancing quality and relevance of TVET. We are talking about improving teachers' qualifications. We are talking about obsolete equipment in our centers. We need additional facilities. We are talking about increasing access and equity. We are looking at research, promoting research in TVET, and also diversifying findings in TVET.
That's all the top news we had for you this evening. Sport Planet is next, but first the economics roundup, followed by the weather forecast.
Good evening to you and welcome to Sport Planet, the segment that unpacks everything sport for you. I'm Michael Madimba. Athletics headline the segment. Top Namibian athletics coach Lethu Hamola has lost his appeal against the Namibia Sports Commission, Namibia Paralympic Committee, as well as Athletics Namibia. In November 2021, Hamola appealed against the decision of the sport bodies not to bestow on him the Coach of the Year award and to omit Johannes Nambala as well as Ananias Chikongo from the 2021 Sports Star of the Year award. The 2022-2023 English Premier League season is back, with Crystal Palace and Arsenal squaring off this evening at Selhurst Park. Meanwhile, Chelsea manager Thomas Tuchel says the Blues are in the closing stages of finalising Marc Cucurella's reported £60 million transfer from Brighton. The Spain wingback is now on the verge of becoming Chelsea's latest pre-season signing, with Kalidou Koulibaly, Raheem Sterling, as well as Carney Chukwuemeka all having arrived at Stamford Bridge. Stand by for your sports roundup. With the sports news, we've come to the end of this week's cast of Primetime News. Many thanks for watching. If you're new to this channel, do subscribe, and like, share, and press the notifications bell to stay posted on the latest happenings locally and globally. Catch us on Monday next week for another informative Primetime News edition. From myself, Michael Madimba, and the entire cast and crew, wishing you a great weekend. It's good night.